Hilton brings you new ways to stay, with experiences that let you capture the glory days. Introducing the Graduate Hotels. Each inspired by local college towns, these stays are always original and never boring. Get in touch with traditions all across the country and enjoy a stay that's a class above the rest. Book at Graduate Hotels with Hilton Honors Points at Hilton.com. It's a win-win. Hilton, for the stay.
This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, and Brewers Outlet. Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Brewers Outlet, Sunbury Motor Company, and Purdy Insurance. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
All right, great to have you with us on this Wednesday. And after how awful it was around here last night, it's turned out to be a beautiful day today. And it's great to have everybody on board. Get to Frank Bodani in just a moment here. And this half hour of the show being brought to you by our good friends at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. And you can always go to sunburymotors.com. Joining us now is the outstanding Frank Bodani, York Daily Record. Frank, welcome back. It is so great to have you with us.
Hey, thank you. Good afternoon, Steve. Hope you're enjoying the beautiful weather this week.
It is, and the blue-white game was Saturday. So what were your impressions of this whole thing when it was all said and done?
Well, first of all, you had to get used to, now as a member of the media, sitting outside to start the game, right, in a construction zone with that big crane hanging over everything. Only fans on half the stadium, right? So we eventually retreated to the interview, Steve. I have to admit that. It got a little windy up there.
Yeah, sure did.
But I think, the biggest thing I think everybody's looking for was the pass game, the new receivers, all that. And I think they got treated to some good stuff, especially, a little more work for the backup quarterbacks. And I think you needed to see that, and I think it was important for the coaching staff to see Ethan Grunkemeyer and Jackson Smolik work with the different wideouts. And I guess I'm coming away with the idea that, hey, there's more options there catching the football than maybe people maybe realize. And I think that's a good thing. And I think both of the quarterbacks look promising because you need to have a backup or two ready to go because you never know what's going to happen.
I'm glad you brought up Ethan Grunkemeyer and Jackson Smolik. We've seen a little bit of Grunkemeyer in a game. Smolik didn't get an opportunity to play at all last year. James has said it is close because of the way Smolik has come on in all of this. What was your thought just watching them for 2 hours on Saturday?
I think they give on Saturday I thought different aspects I liked about them. I liked the way Jackson Smolik stood out to me a lot, the way he was able to move around and throw the ball on the run, so to speak, a little bit. Kept his eyes downfield. I think he has a lot of potential with that. Seemed to have a good feel for that. And just Ethan Grunkemeyer just, stepping back and firing the ball. And I think he looked really confident to me doing what he was supposed to do. And he only really got in one game so far. Yeah. And it was not the ideal situation. Probably, I don't know what the wind chill was against SMU in the end of that game, but that was not an easy place to be.
Right.
But I think talking with Ethan, you get the sense of the confidence that he belongs. And I think this summer, I think you get a glimpse of them on Saturday, right? But James has said it a few times, how important the summer is coming up for the pass game, for the backup quarterbacks, for the receivers. And I think you got a good glimpse of both of those guys, that they look like they can operate the offense. And I think it's going to be even better going forward because, hey, Drew Aller can be as good as anybody in the country, but one hitting his hand on somebody's helmet in the first game, you might be seeing one of those guys right away. So I think it was a good start.
When Sean Clifford was the quarterback and Drew was a true freshman, James was able to get Drew Aller into 9 games that particular season. Do you think that's a possibility that whomever is number 2 as to whomever emerges, that they get that kind of work and get their feet wet in that way? Do you think that is a possibility?
Absolutely. And I think that's front of James's mind. He realized how important it is. And you got to look at, if this team is supposed to be as good as the rankings say they will be or that fans and media types expect them to be, well, then they should have games, some of these games, if not a lot of these games, put away before the middle of the fourth quarter. And we're talking even maybe the first 3 games. They start the season against 3 non-league, non-conference opponents that they're going to be expected to win by double digits and more. And those are opportunities, right, to get the backup or backups in as quick as possible. 3 weeks in a row, right off the bat. So you got, to me, I want to see those guys in there early in September and often. And I think going from there, then I think you see how it goes. But yes, definitely, I think possibly. And you remember, Drew's first game, right?
Yep.
That was not planned, his appearance.
Right.
So you never know, right? Sean was out for a series or 2, and Drew got in there and did really well his first game. And I'm interested to see how these guys react in any type of a similar situation to that.
Well, let's get up front with that group because it's taken a long time to build it to this point. Do you see potential in that offensive line, not just as protection, but the ability to knock people off the ball in the running game?
Yeah, we've been, I think, waiting for that last aspect maybe consistently for more than a decade. Mm-hmm. And that's not to take away. I mean, that's a hard thing to do, right? It's easy to say, but then you get hit with sanctions and roster. The roster isn't the way it's supposed to be. That was a hard thing to build, but they got it there. And I think you saw it last year with some of that ability to move people off the ball with running the ball and the nastiness kind of that's legal, but knock people away. Mm-hmm. And I think Cooper Cousins, here's a young guy, not that's supposed to be able to just play. Here's a young guy on the offensive line that's supposed to come in and be really good and be able to move people off the ball. So it's not just pass protection. They have more experience and depth and quality talent, I think, there than they've ever had, certainly under James Franklin. And, we'll see how it goes. You might be talking about some of that best quality since 1994, maybe.
Yeah.
95.
Yeah, and the wide receiver situation, by adding Hudson and Ross, what did you see from those two, Frank, and what did you see from maybe a couple of the younger players that could make a difference?
Well, what I like about the transfers, and I'm going to include Trebor Pena in this, who's also coming now, 3 transfer receivers, they all offer something different to me, and I think that's really valuable in the pass game. They have different skills where, Devontae Ross, smaller, maybe quicker in space, can use him in different ways with end arounds and, all kinds of things like that. But then Hudson, bigger body guy, and he showed that Saturday where he made a nice catch along the side, made that one up and got that one across the middle. I think he can stretch the field in a different way, maybe down the middle, physical guy. And then Trebor Pena is tough guy, a mix of them, not real big. But then you mentioned the young guys. So you have those 3 transfers, but then Lyric Samuel is a guy to keep an eye on, I think, because while he's so young, and everybody said, well, does he have enough physicality and is his body ready for the Big Ten? Well, I mean, he certainly looked like he could handle himself on Saturday, granted the scrimmage, but he looked good. I mean, you can't fight the instincts, right? He's got them. And I think he's we've heard he's made great catches in spring practice, going up and getting the ball. So and he's the bigger, taller guy. Then you have some of the guys that are also redshirt freshmen, guys coming back. And I think Kobe Howard's another true freshman like Lyric, who we've heard about all spring. And I think, he gives you a physical presence who might be ready to contribute right away. So all of a sudden, the worry goes to maybe how do you fit all these guys in?
Well, the other part that fits into all of this, Frank, is we are in an era of NIL, and if you do it right, you can get roster retention. There are so many guys that are 4-year starters on this team, or this will be their 4th year of contribution. What kind of price can you put on that experience, especially guys who have made big plays in playoffs?
Well, you can't, because Penn State, I don't know what kind of statistic you use, but who has more guys that have been there longer with the one team they're with Penn State, than any team in the country, right? So it's not even that they have experience. To me, it's that they know the system and the culture. They've been in the same program with that experience. To me, that kind of communal build of the team, that's invaluable. And how often do you get that? And I think other teams would like it. Penn State has done it. And I think you didn't always see the rewards of that maybe in the past. We've heard James focus on this. I think now you're going to see the rewards on it. They keep beating down the door on this and building the team. Finally, I think you're going to see the rewards of having, who would have thought Nick Singleton and Katron Allen would both come back for a 4th year together at that position? Who would think the whole running back room would even be back? I mean, for that matter. But, to have those two guys together, they're not transfers like Ohio State has, not one guy coming in. These are two guys that have been together, same program, and I think it's hard to even put a measure on how much that's worth in games. I think that's going to pay dividends, and I think when they get in tough spots, you have guys that can rely not just on each other, and I don't know if other teams can say that.
When you look at the defense and what you saw Saturday, give me a couple of guys that stuck out to you that bear greater watching.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that. Okay, so I'm going to go first. Darius Dixon, true freshman. Mm-hmm. The way he handled pass coverage, but that hit that he had toward the end of the scrimmage was, in a sense, kind of unbelievable because, Steve, it was a legal hit, right?
Oh, yeah. No, it was a legal hit. What impressed me, though, is that Brown held on to the ball.
Well, that's the other part.
I'll give JB credit on that one.
Yes, that was incredible. I go back, to like when Penn State back in 2005, they played at Northwestern, and Jordan Norwood's one of his first experience, he got clobbered, decked like that.
That was in the Rose Bowl by Mays.
Well, that was that one too, and he held on to the ball.
He did.
So maybe we should take more from Josiah Brown too. But Darius Dixon, that was an incredible hit for a cornerback, and I think he comes in with he's so highly rated and regarded, and then he goes in a scrimmage and backs it up. I think that's really positive. Babu Toure, I thought, played really well. He just looks like he's playing fast compared to his experience. That's to me, a really good sign. Anthony Specca, I don't think he came out at all. So he looked good. By the way, a sidelight, looks like it's going to be a very good interview for us. Very well spoken, confident, talking to us.
Yep.
But those are Malachi Williams. Saw him in the backfield a little bit. A young guy that need to find a new depth and experience and a starter at defensive end. So I think it looks really good. And you can't get much deeper than they are at cornerback. And so that's it. But I think they're building it with safety too. So don't sleep on Penn State having one of the best secondaries in the country.
Right. Wheatley, Harris, and Washington all have the possibility with health to be somewhere on somebody's All-America team somewhere, maybe third team, maybe second, whatever. But those three guys have all that. We have, and fans didn't get a chance to see King Mack do anything, or Zion Tracy.
No.
I mean, I'll say this about Dixon. You know what? For a kid that's 18 years old, he's built like a 22-year-old.
And I think he's almost a little under the radar because he's from California, and you're not looking at that position like you had to have Darius Dixon because they have all the players you just mentioned. But you don't turn it away, and if he's this good, he's going to be pushing those guys. I don't care how many of them there are by mid-season, if not earlier. And that's a great thing. And we didn't even mention O'Davian Collins.
Yeah.
So I think, you have an embarrassment of riches, and you need it because you don't underplay the contributions those guys can make on special teams, the rotation aspect of it, and, of course, somebody gets hurt. I mean, in this day and age, they played 16 games last year, and they were not all healthy for all of them, all of those guys. So how important is that?
So
tremendous.
Going into camp, which will be the first week of August, what would be a couple of things you would look at and say, okay, if that part gets better, which it has the potential to, but what if that part gets better, this team could be great?
I think the connection between Drew Aller and his receivers, especially the new guys, the transfers, because they're going to be looked at, to me, as they're older guys. They could be your three starters even. Mm-hmm. What's that connection like with Drew? Number one. I kind of want to see how their tight end rotation shapes up. We know Luke Reynolds is really promising. They got a lot of guys in there, but, you're replacing the best tight end in some ways, most productive tight end ever at Penn State. I want to see that. And defensively, they got a couple of holes to fill, and that's one at defensive tackle, one at defensive end. What's James saying about, what are the players saying about those two spots? Because while they got great guys there, they need another starter at both of those. Mm-hmm. So how are the young guys performing in the background the next 3 months? What do they look like by early August? So those are my first on my list.
And that's where the transfer portal comes in. Now, Penn State lost a linebacker in the transfer portal. It's obviously trying to get one back right now. But what did James outline as priorities for him in the transfer portal?
Well, a lot of us wrote stories about it. I don't know if I've ever seen him, Steve, come out and say, we need a linebacker. We'd like to get him through the transfer portal. So if anybody's out there that wants to sign up, he was pretty straightforward on Saturday.
Yeah.
And immediately, it sounds like they have a couple of guys that are visiting of interest, and one of them is Vabu Tori's older brother. Mm-hmm. So that's a huge thing, having two linebackers like they have visiting that are such known commodities. I think they're going to get one of them at least. So that's your big starting point. I don't know about defensive end and defensive tackle, but it looks like they're going to cash in at linebacker, and you can't have enough. This is a huge season, right, Steve? How much expectations, more expectations has there been for a Penn State season than this one right now?
Well, look, you can't have back Drew Aller, Katron Allen, Nicholas Singleton, Khalil Dinkins, Drew Shelton, Venga Ioane, Nick Dawkins, Zane Durant, Denai Dennis Sutton, Zakee Wheatley, Elliott Washington, A.J. Harris, and not have expectations. There'd be people aching to have those people back.
Well, and it's also how they ended last year. They won. They went to the playoffs. They won 2 games. People are still talking about how they're a play away maybe from winning that, going to the national title. They're so close. Then they bring everybody back. I think fans believe maybe more now that they can do it. So, not just talk, right?
Yeah. Any thoughts on Jim Knowles? You're not going to get much out of Saturday, but any thoughts on Jim Knowles?
Well, they're still saying that he's a defensive genius, so I'm going with that. Even if he doesn't apparently doesn't say much at practice, right?
He does not.
We didn't get to
He does not.
We didn't get to talk to him after the game. I didn't get a chance to speak with him after the game on Saturday. So we're going to wait a little while. But, more than maybe any hire they had, to me it doesn't matter that he hasn't said much because he has, the best resume and experience of pretty much any coach James has hired. So that's what it is. But I'm thinking there's no reason to believe you're not going to get a great effort there. And if he tweaks it the way it looks from the past, then so be it. I think they have it just seems like they have such a good coordinator situation right now, a dynamic one that you got to have faith in that. I think anybody who in the country wouldn't want to have that combination right now? And you couldn't always say that. I mean, that's hard to say, so you got it.
Well, when Jim talks at practice, everybody looks up, goes, all right. But I guess, the key for him is all the feedback they get in meetings. And they said, and I was talking to Dominic DeLuca, and he looks at me, he says, I love this guy. Okay. Hey, pretty good endorsement for me. Frank?
Yeah.
Frank, always a pleasure to have you on. Just love talking with you and the insight. I appreciate you very much.
Absolutely. Love it too, man. I hope you have a great rest of this week. Enjoy.
Thanks so much. Frank Bodani, York Daily Record, this half hour, brought to you by our good friends at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Elm's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Party time, game time, or just fun time. Doesn't matter what time it is because it's Brewers Outlet time. The beverage supermarket has the area's largest beer selection. Imports, microbrews, ciders, and domestics. Pick from over 100 ice-cold 12-packs and dozens of 24-ounce singles. Soda, snacks, hot sauces, fresh roasted peanuts. Make it one-stop party shopping, and don't forget the pickle bar. So whatever you're celebrating or just doing it up, Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street, Sunbury wants to see you. And thank you for your years of patronage.
Hi, this is Season. For over 100 years, the Purdy Insurance Agency has been protecting families and businesses of the greater Susquehanna Valley and beyond. With the experience of our trained and knowledgeable staff, you can rest assured that your needs will be evaluated and met by some of the industry's best representatives. No matter what your insurance needs are, call Purdy Insurance today at 570-286-5855. Visit our website at purdyinsurance.com or check us out on Facebook to see what we can do for you.